The darling company we keep here. But Albina and I love to run for the window.
Yeah, a little smoke.
Thank God we're smoking. This is just one little chapter, but I've got some that are 20 or so pages, but it's hundreds of feet as seen on TV. I can show you more later. DSKs. We're Okulo.
All your favorite people.
Well, so long.
Albina, just grab a couple of chapters. Oh,
Well,
I think there's some.
Why don't you read him this that you started?
Yeah,
with,
but
I think
you can be looking at this while I read you because
We'd
it's.
love to hear you.
Okay, shall I start reading?
please.
Yeah,
Yes,
go.
Well, this is Bacon on the rooftop of his house that he bought, and then he lost it gambling. But he brought me there to do this portrait, which was a major honor. And I did hundreds of pictures of him in motion, and the best one, of course, we don't have right now, but it's his head going this way and that way, and you see both faces on his shoulders.
Well, I know that this picture. I've seen it.
Going up that river was like traveling back to the earliest beginnings of the world, when vegetation rioted on the earth and the big trees were kings. An empty stream, a great silence, an impenetrable forest. The air was warm, heavy, thick, sluggish. There was no joy in the brilliance of the sunshine. The long stretches of the waterway ran on, deserted into the gloom of overshadowed distances. On silvery sandbanks, hippos and crocodiles sunned themselves side by side. The broadening waters flowed through the mob of wooded islands. You lost your way on that river, as you would in a desert, and butted all day long against shoals, trying to find the channel till you thought yourself bewitched and cut off forever from everything you'd ever known. Konrad Korzeniowski, Joseph Conrad, wrote to his friend Edward Garnick that until he spent 6 months in Africa, he had had not a thought in his head. The subdued, thundering mutter of the Stanley Falls hung in the heavy night air of the last navigable reach of the Upper Congo. And I said to myself with awe, this is the very spot of my boyish boast. When he was a kid at school, he used to look at the maps of Africa, and he wanted to go there. My boyish... Where are we?
And his friend Edward Garment.
Yeah, said hung in the air, navigable reach of the Upper Congo. And I said to myself with awe, this is the very spot of my boyish boast. What an end to the idealized reality of a boy's daydream. The cannibal culture, the jungle wars, the ivory hoarding, slave collecting, the terrorizing world of Mr. Kurtz. His view of human nature, the greatest oxymoron of the century, had been permanently changed. I asked myself, what was I doing here with a... Jesus Christ, can you get me a pair of glasses? I'll be
I
off
was
the...
waiting for you to say.
Yeah, I know, I can hardly see.
Yeah, look at me. I've got like +3 up there.
How's the plane?
And I'm only 52.
Did you just get off the plane from London or someplace worthy?
Amsterdam, Philadelphia, here.
Good.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, boring flight.
Amsterdam's pretty good now. It's full of
Amsterdam's
Africans.
Before I grew up.
And I said to myself with awe, this is very fun, my boy Jimbo. The cannibal culture, the jungle wars, the ivory hoarding, slave collecting, the terrorizing world of Mr. Kurtz. His view of human nature had been permanently changed. I asked myself, what was I doing here with a harsh sensation of panic in my heart, not fit for a human being to behold? Before the Congo, I was a mere animal. In these lonely woods, it was where I found Mr. Kurtz and Leopold, and I also found myself. You know, I hate, detest, this is himself. You know, I hate, detest, and can't bear a lie. Not because I'm straighter than the rest of us, but simply because it appalls me. There's a taint of death, a flavor of mortality in lies, which is exactly what I hate and detest in the world, and what I want to forget. I'll just read a little bit more. It's just so good. I have a recording of Conrad. I used to do all my collages too. After a particularly savage attack on Conrad's steamer, Roi de Belge, Conrad Korzeniowski, Marlowe, the narrator on the Thames, regrets the cruel spearing of his helmsman, the loss of a worthy savage, brutally killed. I missed my late helmsman awfully. I missed him even when his body was still lying in the pilot house. Perhaps you think it passing strange, this regret for a savage who was no more account than a grain of sand in the black Sahara. Well, don't you see? He'd done something. He'd steered. For months, long months, I had him at my back. A help. An instrument. It was a kind of partnership. He steered for me. I had to look after him. I worried about his deficiencies. And thus a subtle bond had been created of which I had become aware when it was suddenly broken. And the innate profundity of that look he gave me when he received his hit remains to this day in my memory, like a claim of distant kinship in a supreme moment. They wanted to keep his body hanging about. Embalm it, maybe. That's sarcastic, of course. But I also heard a very ominous murmur. Oh, quite. Oh, quite, he heard that ominous murmur. But I had made up my mind that if my helmsman was to be eaten, the fishes alone should have him. It is strange how I accepted this unforeseen partnership, this choice of nightmares forced upon me in the tenebrous, the shady and dark land invaded by these mean and greedy phantoms. Mr. Kurtz discoursed. A voice, a voice! It rang deep in the very last, to hide in the magnificent folds of eloquence, in the barren darkness of his heart. Oh, he struggled. The wastes of his weary brain were haunted by shadowy images. Now, images of wealth and fame revolving obsequiously around his inextinguishable gift of noble and lofty expression. And it goes on. It's
heavy, yeah.
It's Conrad's little moment of revealing his humanitarian things into the heart of darkness, where it was just bullshit and like a grain of sand. But the point is right here. This is really Bacon. Bacon never lied. He was always truthful, and he was always frank and cut through all the bullshit. Right. That's the reality. So that's what I'd like to be when we're talking.
Yeah, that's good.
And unfortunately, it's called racism here, but I call it territorialism in other words. Okay. Tribalism, territorialism, primitivism.
Yeah, it's humankind.
And I'm particularly stimulated right now because Obama, who I worship, and I think he's the only hope for the world, actually, his reach of communication, came up with the most horrible statements against Joseph Conrad in The Heart of Darkness. And I really hate him for that.
Write him a letter.
But I'm overlooking it, and I'm not going to write him a letter. But
Be interesting.
Obama is a bit of a racist himself. Not really him, his wife. And they're always pushing the darky on us, and I don't blame him, and it's got to happen. Mm-hmm. But it is still a kind of a lie because it's not considering natural history and truth and our origins, the fossil series, and where we came from, the jungle. Of course, now we've ended up in the jungle. But I expected more from Obama than to take a...
Yeah, maybe he's also like navigating through the shoals of the river.
Is he ever? His navigation is unbelievable.
Yeah. Maybe we should move on. And everyone's more comfortable, Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was an excellent Good introduction to our afternoon.
Well, you know, it's hard for us to take. I did write down answers to your questions here. I'm afraid I was doing everything at the same time. But I love your questions.
Where did you put them?
What? No, I have to record because I need to. I cannot memorize everything.
Okay.
I go through the detail.
I could actually read you my answers, but it might be a way to start.
That's not a conversation.
Yeah, maybe we can go. You know, use them as a guideline.
This catches up. This is my diary of the last year. But it's crap. It's. I'm not really. I don't have the time to really do it anymore. But there it is. You can look at it.
So when did you sort of like?
This is just now.
No. So my question was, you're keeping the diaries.
It's really a crap piece of. It's a listing. It's a different thing than a diary. It's.
But it's
spilling names, lists, things I have to do.
Yeah.
It's just textures of the day.
Yeah, but as I understand, you kept them for years. It was part of your.
Well, that's the only thing I've got is lots.
Yeah.
It's not really what you'd call eloquent or
no, but I mean,
interesting.
A good friend of mine, he's a painter from Amsterdam. He produces hundreds of paintings, maybe a month, a week, a month. Mm-hmm. He's really active.
Throws a lot out, I hope.
And he gives them away, throws them away, paints it over, and he said, okay, I don't know. Other people judge what is the one they like. I'm not to judge about this. So he goes about his business. Maybe like you, just as it became your routine or your life.
Yeah, it's a routine.
It's a routine, and it's a beautiful thing.
I'm not really that good a painter, but that's a post.
No, but it's also something that needs discipline, right? Because to do you have to be focused and have this desire.
There's
or
one
this
other
will
quote
to do
I could read you. The only quote that I really worship is this one up here. I'll have to get up near it.
Yeah, give me a hand if you want.
It comes from the guy who invented, along with Darwin.
Come on, give me. I can do it. He's got a strong arm. Like
no, it's okay.
Hold me. You don't really show if you want to. You don't.
The evolutionary realities. Alfred Russel Wallace. You know him?
Yeah. No.
Well, it was really upsetting to Darwin that Russell actually came up with the theory of evolution, origin of the species, before him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know.
As he was of a lower class and pecking order,
right.
Darwin kind of took over.
Yeah.
But catch this English of these people in this time. This is Alfred Russel Wallace. In 1858, discovering the never-before-seen kingbird of paradise, Alfred Russel Wallace wrote these thoughts. I knew how few Europeans had beheld this perfect little organism I now gazed upon. The emotions excited in the mind of a naturalist who has long desired to see the actual thing which he has hitherto known only by description, especially when the thing is of surpassing rarity and beauty, required the poetic faculty fully to express them. The remote island in which I found myself situated, in an almost unvisited sea, far from the tracks of ships and navies, the wild, luxuriant tropical forest, which stretched away on every side, the rude, uncultured savages who gathered round me, all had their influence in determining the emotions which I gazed upon this thing of beauty. I thought of the long ages of the past, during which successive generations of this little creature had run their course, year by year being born and living and dying among these dark and gloomy woods, with no intelligent eye to gaze upon their loveliness. It seems sad that on the one hand, such exquisite creatures should live out their lives, doomed for ages yet to come to hopeless barbarism, while on the other hand, should civilized man ever reach those distant lands and bring moral, intellectual, and physical light into the recesses of these virgin forests, we may be sure that he will so disturb the nicely balanced relations of organic and inorganic nature as to cause the disappearance and finally the extinction of those very beings whose wonderful structure and beauty he alone is fitted to appreciate and enjoy.
Yeah.
They could really write.
Yeah.
And that sums up all my thoughts.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten it was there. I'm okay.
Yeah. But
I had a new hip put in,
but this picture.
Me now is my ankles and my knees.
You shot this picture.
Sorry?
You shot this picture with a 35.
Yeah, that's real place to see in Africa.
You can almost feel like the heat and the quietness and the breathing of the animals. It's a great shot. It's a harmonious shot.
That's the Tiva logo,
Yeah.
and that is what prehistory looked like.
Yeah.
And they came all around me. I was in a waterhole divot.
I love it because it really looks like paradise or harmony.
Yeah,
balanced harmony.
It's a form of paradise
Yeah.
for sure. Okay,
Yeah, let's go have your tea in the other room.
Yeah,
Be
go
more,
have my
all
tea.
of us will be more comfortable.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
Is that for me?
This is the cover of my last book, Zara's Tales. But of course, they chose to do their cover, so this is the only picture I have of the real thing. But I like it. This is Hog Ranch, Hard Brute, Zara.
Yeah.
Zara here?
No, she went to school with me.
Oh.
And this was the cover of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and this is
And the
all, if you
drawings
look
are
closely, this is all
nice.
billions of dots.
Thank you.
The Hog Ranch Art
You'll
Department.
see more out there on the big.
Okay.
Yeah.